Thank you. And now, in cooperatives in particular, and the social solidarity economy more widely have played a particular role during this pandemic. The 110th session of the International Labour Conference, that would be in 2022, will hold a first general discussion on social and solidarity economy for a human-centered future of work. To set the scene of our next conversation, here's a video on the role of cooperatives and the social solidarity economy in the COVID-19 response. To discuss again this issue further, we're pleased to be joined by Simel Essim, the head of the ILO Cooperative Unit. Simel, welcome. We've just seen the video, but could you explain a little bit more about what the social and solidarity economy is about?
Thank you, Gebre. There is not an official definition from the ILO on the social and solidarity economy. We have a working definition that comes from an ILO regional conference in Africa, in Johannesburg in 2009, and it's an umbrella term that encompasses a range of organizations and enterprises. And these organizations have explicit economic and social objectives, more recently and increasingly also environmental ones, have some form of cooperative, associative solidarity relations, especially between workers, producers, and consumers, and practice some degree of workplace democracy and self-management. In most countries, cooperatives are the biggest building block under the social and solidarity economy. They're the best established in most countries with respect to sectoral diversity, legislation, support institutions, and even statistics, although on that front there is still some more work to be done, and we are working on operationalizing international statistical standards and cooperatives that were adopted at the 20th International Conference of Labor Statisticians. Traditionally, we see cooperatives in finance, in agriculture, retail, housing, but increasingly they are also present in the platform economy, in renewable energy, working with refugees, and in providing health and care services. So what are the other types of organizations that fall under the social and solidarity economy? These include social enterprises, women's self-help groups, mutual benefit societies, associations of informal workers, fair trade enterprises, community forestry groups, and alternative financial schemes. The scope and nature, of course, changes across countries and regions. Also, the knowledge base. For instance, SSE is very strong in continental Europe, Francophone countries, Latin America, and it's in earlier stages of development, for instance, in the Asia-Pacific region. So the office is working in supporting the constituents in overcoming some of these gaps through research and capacity building. We are completing the first phase of six-country project in East Asia on strengthening SSE policy, and we'll start the second phase in July in another 6 countries. Back to you, Salwa and Gebre.
Thank you very much, Simel. What role do these cooperatives, the social and solidarity economy, what role have they played during the pandemic?
Well, as you've seen in the brief video that you have shown, historically during periods of crises, the values of cooperation, solidarity, mutualism actually experienced an increase in popularity. And this was the case, for instance, during the aftermath of the 2007-8 financial crisis. And during the global pandemic, it was no difference, as you saw also articulated by many of the world leaders during the summit today. They emphasized the need for solidarity. Around the pandemic, co-ops and other SSE institutions have stepped up, like producer and consumer cooperatives have kept supply chains of essential food and goods moving while also relocalizing production. Financial co-ops and ethical banks, credit unions put initiatives in place to support local MSMEs and members trapped for cash and unable to or struggling to pay their loans. Health and industrial cooperatives transform their production and services to meet urgent local needs for protective equipment and social care, collaborating with local government and national governments. Association of also informal workers have advocated for government support for their members and even provided flow of work for their members who are among the first to lose their livelihoods, whether they are waste pickers, street vendors, domestic workers, or home-based workers. We have evidence of social cooperatives doing much better in protecting their members and workers from and beneficiaries from the pandemic than their non-cooperative counterparts, for instance, in providing elderly care. And during this period, it's important to note that policymakers recognize the role that cooperatives and wider SSE organizations play as social actors in emergency response, as partners. It's important, though, they are also recognized as economic actors that need to benefit from the financial relief packages. Moreover, they should be considered as critical partners in the long term with building more resilient communities and strengthening local economies. Back to you.
Thank you, Sibel. Now let's try to imagine we're in 2022. It's the International Labour Conference. The general discussion will happen. So can you tell us a little bit more about the substance of the conversation, the substance of the discussions around the social and solidarity economy?
Thank you, Gilbray. The office has been responding to constituent requests on cooperatives for more than 100 years, and on social and solidarity economy for at least the last decade. And within the UN system, the ILO has been at the forefront of promotion of cooperatives and SSE. Having said that, next year is the first time that a discussion on social and solidarity is going to take place at an international labor conference. So this is a big deal. And cooperatives have had a standard-setting discussion and a recommendation, a number 193, on the promotion of cooperatives at the 2002 International Labor Conference. Next year will be the 20th anniversary of that recommendation, with more than 110 countries that have used this recommendation to reform their cooperative policies and legislation. Next year's International Labour Conference item on SSE for a human-centered future work is a general discussion item. The office, as usual practice, is preparing a report to inform this general discussion. It will be an opportunity for us to brief our constituents of the work that the office has been doing in this area of work, so we are excited about that. And we hope that the committee will discuss and agree upon a universal definition of social and solidarity economy, including its associated values and principles, provide an assessment of the contribution of SSE to help people manage the transitions in their working lives, including, for instance, from the informal to the formal economy, and provide policy guidelines for member states that want to establish a conducive enabling environment for development of social and solidarity economy. We also hope for the office that the general discussion and conclusions from the committee will equip the office with guidance on how to engage in the promotion of SSE moving forward, and also encourage us to build and strengthen partnership with SSE organizations and those that promote SSE. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Simel. And actually, for our last question to you today, we are going to take a question from the audience. And we have Anissa, who has written in from Taiwan. And she's asking, how do cooperatives help to promote women's empowerment and gender equality?
Thank you, Anissa, for that very good question. We do find women very prominent in certain sectors of cooperatives, similar to the division of labor we see in the world of work. For instance, in care, education, and health, at social cooperatives, we see women as leaders, founders, workers, beneficiaries. When it comes to other sectors, for instance, like agriculture, although women may be majority of workers, contributing family workers, they may not be as strongly present in the membership ranks and in the leadership ranks. Finance does a little bit better, retail also. So we see women flocking to cooperatives. And in fact, in some countries where women's labor force participation may be low, their cooperative participation is much higher, because this actually creates a form of sharing risk, responsibility, know-how, support, training, learning, and also it's a school for democracy, where many women who become members and leaders in cooperatives later on move to, for instance, taking roles in local government and in other political, social, economic leadership roles.
Thank you, Sima. Thank you for your insights and for joining us on the Daily Show.